You probably have some ambitions in life. Probably have some things that you want to accomplish. Maybe you want to save up some money and move out or buy a car. Maybe you're hoping to move up the ranks at a company that you have an internship with right now. Maybe you just want to get your degree and go from there. Whatever it is that you're doing, I'm sure it's taking up a lot of your time and energy. So it's important to know why it is that you're doing what you do. Why is it that your course of action every day is supporting this goal? Why is it that goal that you've chosen? And this is a very, very overlooked question. A lot of people would actually not be able to answer the question of why it is they're doing what they're doing. And you might be one of them. If you are, I encourage you to analyze your early years in life a little bit. And this is going to be very valuable for you. I'm going to tell you why. So in the earliest years of our life, our ego development is still very, very fresh. It's still just starting out. When we're a baby, we can't even recognize ourselves in the mirror, right? That's like the first stage of our ego development, is being able to make the difference between self and other. After that, after you can recognize yourself in the mirror, maybe you're a toddler, you still can't really make a lot of sense out of the world. Everything is still very fresh. You just know that this is me and these are my parents that provide for me. Without them, I'd be dead. In these early years of our life, maybe let's say the first 8 to 10 years, you are very, very impressionable. You're being indoctrinated by everything around you, specifically by your parents' worldview and your siblings, whoever you're spending the most time with. Maybe you're largely raised by your grandparents, so maybe it's them. And this isn't always a conscious process. So by that I mean, maybe from your childhood, you've adopted the worldview that life sucks. You're going to work a job that you don't like. You're going to have a family that you're mostly numb towards. And it's going to be okay, like that's just what life is supposed to be. That's the expectation. That's your worldview. And maybe that wasn't directly communicated to you, but maybe your parents came home from work every day and they just bitched about fucking Jenny from HR or whatever. You didn't see that much passion about life in them. You didn't see that much happiness. So you don't really hold yourself accountable to those standards. You hold yourself to the worldview that you've adopted, that you've been indoctrinated with. And that's just subconsciously. There's a lot of things consciously too, right? If your parents are homophobic or racist, for example, there's a good chance that, at least in the early stages of your life, you were too. And now, with the world changing the way it is, you've been exposed to more developed worldviews, hopefully to a point where you recognize that that's not a healthy thing to exhibit those feelings towards a certain demographic of people. That's just an example. That's not what this video is about. So the reason that this is so important is because those early years of your life are going to shape the belief systems that you have. And chances are you're going to have a couple belief systems that are going to limit the course of action that you take. They're going to limit the way you perceive that you can live your life. Maybe your belief systems are going to make you think, well, I'm just going to work like a mediocre job and pay a mortgage for the rest of my life. And that's kind of depressing. So you want to be able to undo that, but first you need to have an awareness over it. So it is important to evaluate your childhood, because those perceptions, that structure of your mind that's being formed by all these impressions that you're seeing in and around you in those early stages of your life, are then going to dictate the choices that you make, which is the action that you take. So you have your perceptions that are shaped in your childhood. You have the structure of the way that your mind works that's shaped in your childhood. That's going to dictate your course of action. And that's going to dictate the content. That's going to dictate the way you feel. That's going to dictate the way you go about experiencing your emotions. That's going to dictate everything, the dollar amount in your bank account, how valuable you hold the idea of being rich and famous, of driving a nice car, whatever. So it all goes back to perception. The way we perceive reality is the way that reality is going to be experienced by us. So if we're not happy with the way that we're feeling, if we're not happy with the way that our life is going, we have to change the course of action. But to know how to change the course of action and why we're taking the course of action that we currently are, we need to go about this in a way that's sustainable, in a way that feels hopeful, in a way that we can rely on, not in a way that's just doing something that deep down you feel is not actually going to work. So you have to restructure your whole way of thinking, your whole way of perceiving things. You have to be able to adopt different worldviews. So this is why asking why and evaluating your childhood and any of the conditioning that was infringed upon you, any of the dogma that you might have bought into, any of these limiting belief systems that might be programming your mind to this day are there. Evaluating your childhood is going to let you see that. And once you have an awareness over these things, you're going to be able to act on them and to undo them. And already you're starting to evaluate the world with a more holistic perspective. You're working towards understanding your own developmental psychology. And if you want to do this at an even deeper level, I have a couple of resources for you. There's 2 models that I'm thinking of in particular that are very, very helpful to understand. And that is Spiral Dynamics by Claire Graves and Don Beck, and Ego Development Theory by Suzanne Cook-Greuter, or Breuter, one of those. The Ego Development Theory is a 90-page published research paper, and it's phenomenal. And Spiral Dynamics is actually a book. Both of these are put together by like empirically collected data, and you can understand so much about yourself and others by studying these models of developmental psychology. You can access lectures that break these down in a very refined and holistic way on a YouTube channel called actualize.org by a man named Leo Gura. He does a great job breaking them down into a multi-part series through lectures. So that's what I have for you today. I hope you can take this content and learn from it. If you have any questions, feel free to DM me. I'm also offering life coaching sessions, so you can reach out to me and we can set up a conversation for that as well. Take care, guys. Have a good day.